Hello everyone and welcome back to Very Cold Lasagna, your filthy casual place for all the filthy casual takes on the world of sports. I'm DylanLasagna and welcome back to the very last round of weekly picks for the 2022 NFL season. Why do I say very last? Well, that's because it's week 18. Haven't you noticed? In the title is week 18 of the 2022 season, and that means it's the final week. It's the season finale of the NFL season, at least the regular season, mind you. So that means it's the last week before playoffs. Playoffs? What's that? Well, that's the postseason, man. That means it's where the real work gets done. That's when the real shit goes down. So it's the last week of the regular season. And man, things are really shaking up. Like things are really about to get down and dirty, especially with what has gone on in the AFC side of things in the last couple of days. So we're definitely going to talk about it in the lead up to week 18. So I actually a little disclaimer here. I actually did had my picks already recorded, but I had to scrap them because there were some updates. There was some news that broke out while I was recording it, because the NFL decided to come out while I was at the time I am recording this with a little bit of a press release in regards to the suspended Bills and Bengals game on Monday night that initially closed out week 17. So if you haven't known already, the reason why it was suspended was because of Bills safety Damar Hamlin and that unfortunate incident that happened where he collapsed, taken to the hospital. But at least on an update regarding him, there are some very positive signs regarding him. He has motion back in his body. He's able to communicate via writing. He's able to breathe a little bit via a tube. So he's getting a little bit of support slowly but surely. So hopefully he'll continue to make that road to recovery and then make that full recovery back to full strength in the coming weeks. So really positive stuff regards to Damar Hamlin, and hopefully even more in the coming weeks. So in regards to the news that the NFL broke out, they actually announced that the Bills-Bengals game will not be resumed. It's going to be canceled and ruled a no contest. So they released a press release regarding that matter, that it was canceled. It was ruled by Roger Goodell, and who informed all clubs of that decision on a late Thursday night, that the Bills-Bengals game will not be played. What led to that decision, which he said was very difficult, was that had they went on to reschedule that game, was one of the key factors. One of the key considerations was that had they went on with that game, or had they rescheduled that game, it would have pushed the postseason down 1 week. That included the Super Bowl. So it would also affected all 14 teams that qualified for the postseason. So yeah, that was something to really consider about. And then making this, he said in the press release, and I quote, "Making a decision prior to week 18 is consistent with their competitive principles." So basically meaning that there was a lot of things to consider, because there were a lot of AFC playoff implications on the line. So there were some things that were definitely going to be affected had the game still been in effect. And then they came out to release some potential scenarios, some alternative, a modified playoff format for the AFC side. So they're considering maybe on a meeting that's coming out today about a potential neutral site AFC title game for whoever meets the Chiefs, because basically the Chiefs are the most favorable in this scenario, because, considering that the Bills and the Bengals went to a no contest, the Chiefs, all they have to do to get the number 1 seed is basically win against the Raiders. And well, the thing is with this statement that the NFL came out with is that, well, the Chiefs aren't really getting home field advantage for the AFC title game, because if they get to that point, the game would be played at a neutral site. The only thing is that the Bills or the Bengals would be, if either of them get to that point, would be played at a neutral site. If neither team gets there, let's say Chargers or Ravens, or hell, even whoever the number 7 seed is, gets to that point, or even the Jaguars get there, then it would be in Kansas City. It would still stay in Kansas City, I guess. So, it would be a neutral site game if the Bills or the Bengals reach that point. Then the other alternative would be if the Ravens beat Cincinnati in Week 18, and the Bengals basically their home playoff game by virtue of winning the AFC North. When I mean by winning, they basically got the AFC North by tying, but not really, the Bills. But they don't really get the playoff game. They don't really get the home playoff game. So it's basically going to be decided, if you look at the press release, by a coin toss. So if they lose that coin toss, then they have to play Baltimore on the road, which would suck for them. So essentially, they have to win in Week 18. So a lot to consider, a lot of things to play for still in Week 18 for not just Kansas City, not for Buffalo, not for Cincinnati, but for everybody. But it's just a really weird thing going into this now modified playoff format for the AFC side. The NFC side still stays the same, but the AFC side just gets really, really tricky now going forward. So as we transition over to the game slate and picks, it becomes now more than ever important that there are a lot of spots still undecided on the AFC side, and a lot of things uncertain in the playoff picture. So let's talk about this final week of the regular season heading into the playoffs. So starting things off on Saturday, we have the 13-3 Kansas City Chiefs going to Vegas to take on the Raiders at 6-10. So, like I said, with the game now canceled between the Bills and the Bengals, the Chiefs pretty much have a win, and they're the top seed in the AFC. So they can just basically waltz in to that AFC top seed, which in some cases can be a neutral site AFC top seed. But they got to be careful here because, well, the Raiders may be a little bit of a spoiler, maybe not, after Jared Stidham had a surprising performance against my 49ers, and they could potentially have another one up their sleeve, or maybe not. Either way, I'm going with Kansas City in this one as they waltz their way to another top seed. The Tennessee Titans at 7-9 take on the 8-8 all elite Jacksonville Jaguars in a win or go home AFC South title matchup. Now, the Jaguars can also clinch a playoff berth, but it gets very complicated. They have to have a lot of help if they somehow lose this matchup to the Titans. So I'm giving the Jaguars in this matchup because, well, they have the advantage of quarterback. They got Trevor Lawrence over Josh Dobbs, like really. They at least have the supporting cast with Travis Etienne, Zay Jones, Marvin Jones. They at least have options at receiver. So unlike compared to what the Titans have, all they have is Derrick Henry on offense, and they at least got a surging defense. So you gotta give them that. So the all eliteness is gonna spread around in Duval. So the Jaguars gonna get that AFC South title. Going to the Sunday slate of games, the early morning portion. First, the Tampa Bay Bucks at 8-8 take on the 6-10 Atlanta Falcons. Now, I'm not sure why Tampa's going to do this. They're basically the number 4 seed. No question, because everyone else above them is better than them. but they're still planning on playing their starters. I mean, it's kind of weird that they're doing that, but I guess they want to get a little bit of a tune-up. That includes Tom Brady. I don't know if it's going to be the whole game. It'd be kind of stupid if it was, but maybe for a series, I would understand. And then they start pulling back on them and then let the backups play. But either way, it's kind of weird that they're playing their starters in a meaningless game. But either way, for the Falcons, this is one last game for them to see if Desmond Ridder is really the guy to be leading the charge next season. And Ridder, this is an important game for him because going into an important offseason, not just for him, but for the Falcons, he has to make a good impression on the Atlanta front office, the Atlanta coaching staff, that he can be a guy that can, with given the proper supporting cast, can be a quarterback for the future for the Falcons. So the Falcons can win this game. It's just a matter of can Ridder put on a good performance for them. The New England Patriots 8-8 take on the 12-3 Buffalo Bills. So the Patriots do have something to play for on the road. They're facing a win-and-in situation for the last wildcard spot in the AFC. Meanwhile, for the Bills, they're looking at this in a couple of ways. I mean, they could fall down as much as the number 3 seed behind Cincinnati, but yeah, they really wanted that number 1 seed, but it's gonna be tough depending on how things go with Cincinnati. But either way, all of that doesn't really matter now because I mean, at least for them, because they're gonna be playing with big hearts, big motivation for their teammate Damar Hamlin. So I mean, the Bills in this matchup, they're gonna be playing with extra motivation to win on Sunday. The Baltimore Ravens at 10-6 take on the 11-4 Cincinnati Bengals. So this is a must-win for both of these teams. Obviously, if the second proposal goes through, the Ravens are definitely going to want to play to win and hope that coin toss goes through. So for the Ravens, they got to figure out how their offense, whether it's with Tyler Huntley or with the returning Lamar Jackson. For the Bengals, even if they won the AFC North, they got to win this game with their starters, so they can pretty much erase that proposed scenario in that press release. So give me the Bengals in this matchup. The Minnesota Vikings at 12-4 take on the 3-13 Chicago Bears. The Vikings looking to hopefully get some positive momentum going into the playoffs after getting boat raced by the Green Bay Packers, getting their asses whooped in Lambeau because they got exposed big time on defense. Kirk Cousins did not look good at all, and the whole offense was just very bad, just really bad. And as a result, they lost the number 2 seed to my 49ers. So it looks like they're not going to get it back either. So they got to get at least a win, get some positive momentum going against probably the New York Giants in their first wildcard game. So at least they got to at least get some positive momentum. Meanwhile, the Bears, looks like they're finally going to protect the tank, man. They're finally going to either protect the tank or up it because they're going to start the one, the only Mr. Peter, the man, Nathan Peterman over Justin Fields. Well, he's not benched. He's just out with the hip injury. But either way, the legendary, the GOAT, Nathan Peterman, Mr. 5 interceptions, is going to start for the Bears. So the Vikings should have a somewhat field day for themselves as they easily take care of the Bears. Speaking of the Bears, they're going to definitely be watching the next game I'm going to be talking about as the Houston Texans at 2-13-1 take on the 4-11 Indianapolis Colts as the Texans look to protect the tank from Chicago. Because despite what Lovie Smith says, you know the Texans want that number 1 overall pick. You know the front office wants to keep that pick for themselves. They want a quarterback. Like, sure, Davis Mills definitely got a 50-50 chance to prove himself this year, but they want a quarterback. They want a CJ Stroud. They want a Bryce Young. They want to have that quarterback of the future, man. So they don't want to be slipping that up in what's essentially a meaningless game for them. Meanwhile, for the Colts, just one more game, Colts fans, just one more game, and then Jeff Saturday will be out of your life, unless Jim Irsay is stupid enough to keep him around. So the Colts will find a way to win this game over the Texans in a tankathon. Meanwhile, the New York Jets at 7-9 take on the 8-8 Miami Dolphins, and Miami's got to win this game because their hopes are really free falling. They lost 5 straight. Now, their whatever's left of their playoff hopes hinge on a win, and the Bills beating New England. So, unfortunately for them, their hopes really hinge on their third string quarterback, Skylar Thompson, because Teddy Bridgewater with the dislocated pinky may not play. That all can change, but if Skylar Thompson has to be the guy to do it, big yikes. For the Jets, their promising season disappointingly ended in Seattle. They were eliminated from playoff contention, but they can always play spoiler to Miami's last gasp playoff hopes. So I think the Jets, with their defense, they can get it done. The Carolina Panthers and the New Orleans Saints, both at 7-9, face off against each other. Both of their head coaches looking to make an impression to end their season. For Steve Wilkes, an impression to, excuse me, an impression to give Panthers ownership a permanent head coaching gig. For Dennis Allen, maybe an impression to give him another year. I think the Panthers, Steve Wilkes, will be the one to give the better impression. So Carolina wins that one. The 7-9 Cleveland Browns take on an 8-8 Pittsburgh Steelers. Deshaun Watson and the skid marks looked pretty solid in that win to eliminate the Commanders from playoff contention, and they'll look to do the same against the Steelers. Meanwhile, for Pittsburgh and Kenny Pickett, they got to win this game and get some help from Buffalo and the Jets. So will they do it? I don't know. I don't think they will against the skid marks, as they look to provide some optimism, some little bit more hope for their fan base or whatever's left of them. And I'm going to go on a limb and pick the skid marks to win this game. And then this is where things get really interesting, at least for the NFC side, as we get to the late afternoon portion of games. The New York Giants at 9-6-1 take on the 13-3 Philadelphia Eagles. The Eagles facing a must-win situation to clinch the NFC's top seed. They lost 2 straight without Jalen Hurts. Now, excuse me. Now, they have to rush him back with that sprained shoulder and his throwing arm. They gotta rush him back. You don't know what kind of condition it's gonna be, but you gotta have that top seed. Get that bye week. Get whatever players that have been injured, get them healthy for that postseason run. Meanwhile, for the Giants, I'm not sure what their game plan is. They're basically locked into the number 6 seed. They're not going to go up. They're not going to go down. What does Brian Dable do here? Is he going to rest his players? Is he going to play them for a series like Tampa's probably going to do? Or is he going to play them the whole game to potentially play spoiler to their NFC East rivals? I don't know what he's going to do here. Either way, I think Philadelphia finds a way to win this game and put an end to the notion that they're not giving up the number 1 seed. The Dallas Cowboys at 12-4 take on the 7-8-1 Washington Commanders. I feel like something's flying in my throat. The Cowboys are definitely going to be watching the earlier game while they take care of their business, because they have an opportunity to clinch the NFC East with the win. And if the Eagles lose to the Giants, plus the top seed, along with the Eagles loss, plus a Niners loss. So they have something to play for in this game. But don't maybe not count with the Commanders, because they'll be trotting out Sam Howell. Yeah, the Commanders draft pick back in April. Like, we don't know what we're gonna see out of Sam Howell. Maybe he'll be good. Maybe he'll be terrible. Either way, the Cowboys get it done. Then they'll be scoreboard watching. The LA Rams at 5-11 take on the Seattle Seahawks at 8-8. So this is basically Baker Mayfield's audition, his last chance to audition for either the Rams or another team that he could be starting for next season, whichever one he signs with in the offseason. So either way, the Rams are going to be looking to play spoiler to Seattle's playoff hopes, which, by the way, the Seahawks got to win and hope the Lions, which they'll eliminate by winning, to beat the Packers later tonight, because the Green Bay holds an elusive tiebreaker that Seattle does not possess. So otherwise, Seattle will be eliminated. So the Seahawks are going to win this game and hope that the Lions do some business later on in the night. The Arizona Cardinals at 4-12 take on my San Francisco 49ers. The Cardinals basically limping in after suffering even more injuries on offense. But even with David Blau now under center, it's their fourth starting quarterback, they're still trying to look to play spoiler. And Cliff Kingsbury likely playing for his job. He wants to go out, try to play hard, but the 49ers have something to play for too. They got to clinch the number 2 seed with the win, but they're also scoreboard watching. They can also have an opportunity to clinch the NFC's top seed and the bye with the win, and depending on what the Giants do, hand the Eagles a loss. So the Niners obviously have something to play for. They'll get it done. Unless they sleep on the wheel against Arizona. But the Niners will get it done and beat Arizona. Then the Sunday Night Football game to wrap everything up in Week 18 and the NFL season, the regular season. The Detroit Lions at 8-8 take on the also 8-8 Green Bay Packers. So a lot of this game will depend on what happens between the Rams and the Seahawks. So especially regarding the Lions. So the Lions, it depends on how they approach this game. If the Seahawks win, then the Lions don't have anything to play for, unless they really want to eliminate the Packers from playoff contention and then give the game to Seattle, and then we'll have Niners-Seahawks in the first round. But if the Seahawks somehow lose that game to LA, then it becomes a de facto win and you're in kind of game for Detroit. So this could be either an interesting game or it could be a meaningless game, because for Green Bay, all they got to do is just win the damn game. So that's probably what they're going to do here against the Detroit Lions. I mean, granted, the Detroit Lions got a good pass rush, but the run defense is going to be probably the killer for them. So unfortunately for Detroit, they made it this far. They made it pretty well. But damn, that loss to Carolina really killed them in their playoff hopes. But they made it this far. Give them credit, but the Packers just did more than enough than they did. So the Packers moving on to the dance, unfortunately. So those are your picks for the final week of the regular season. Packers, I think, are going to move on to the dance. I think who else is going to move on to the dance? Maybe on the AFC side, maybe Miami if they get lucky. And then Kansas City is going to get the number 1 seed, unfortunately. So basically, your final seed is going to be Kansas City, Buffalo, Cincinnati, Jacksonville, and then the Chargers, Ravens, then maybe Miami, or maybe Pittsburgh bullshits their way into the playoffs. And then in the NFC, you got Philadelphia, San Francisco, Minnesota, Tampa Bay, Dallas, the Giants, and then Green Bay. I mean, yeah, those are that's my predicted playoff picture, and for Week 18. So, what do you guys think? What do you guys think about the proposed AFC statement that the NFL put out? Let me know in the comments below. What do you guys think about my picks for Week 18? The final picks for the 2022 NFL season. Let me know about that as well in the comments below. But anyway, this is DylanLasagna, a very cold lasagna. And keep that lasagna very cold in the fridge. Your takes on the world of sports. And until next time, peace out.